Nats Chat is brought to you by Walters. Walters Sports Bar Navy Yard is hiring. Experienced servers and hosts should email Brett at waltersdc.com. That's BRETT at waltersdc.com for more information, or stop by and fill out an application any day after 10 a.m.
Come join one of the busiest restaurants around the ballpark for this summer or beyond.
Now the pitch. Swing and a line shot up the middle. A base hit into center field. In from third is Soto to score, and the ball is booted by Duvall. He can throw well. He's up with it. Franco trying for second, and he'll make it. It's the Nationals 2 and the Braves nothing. Gray sets. Here's the pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Breaking ball off the plate away. Got him to chase one, and Josiah Gray with his fifth strikeout gets out of the inning. Rainey has the sign come set. Looks over the shoulder. The runner and the pitch. Swinging a ground ball toward the middle. Hernandez has it. He'll go to the bag himself. He'll fire to first. It's a double play. The game is over, and a Curly W's in the books.
And welcome to Nats Chat for Thursday, April 14th, 2022, along with MASN Sports Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is in Atlanta. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. A terrific win for the Nats on Wednesday afternoon. Hump Day was a good day for the Nats. A 3-1 win at the Atlanta Braves to win the series 2-1. Josiah Gray tossed 5 scoreless innings. Sean Doolittle, Steve Cishek, and Tanner Rainey, very good out of the bullpen. You know, offense wasn't great, but offense was good enough. And the Nats now are 3-4 on the season. So this idea of them getting smashed over their first 7 games of the season and facing the New York Mets and the Braves, that idea now bye-bye. And the Nats are 3-1 since their 0-3 start to the season. Not too shabby, Mark.
No, and I think, honestly, if you at the start of this said, hey, you're going to go 3-4 against the Mets and Braves, I think everyone would take that, right? And it's not even just the 3-4, it's how they did it. You can see a clear formula here being established for how they can win games. I think we were worried for a while that their best hope to win games was going to be like 7-6, outslugging another team and maybe some back and forth stuff late in games. And no, what we've actually seen in 2 out of these 3 games here is if they get a good quality start from their starter, and I mean that in terms of not the official designation of a quality start, because right now 5 innings is good enough, but that works. That's quality. And you have a fresh bullpen, you can win a lot of games this way. This was the formula exactly to a T. Josiah Gray for 5, and then your A bullpen, Finnegan, Doolittle, Cishek, and Rainey, closing it out against a very good Atlanta lineup. Now, over time, they may wear down, and maybe this doesn't always work all the time. But I like that formula that they've shown here in their victories. That's a good winning formula that you would think might just be sustainable from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpen, after a frightening start to the season in terms of usage and in terms of what could be coming, has been good now in 3 of the last 4 games. And for all of the fears I think we all had of, like you said, games late becoming these, seesaw battles back and forth, we really haven't had much of that. Like what a game has been more or less is what a game has ended up being. In fact, if any team has mounted a comeback, it's the Nats, like that first win they had, right, with the 3 runs there in the bottom of the 8th inning against the Mets. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. 7 games into the 162. We do not determine conclusions from that, but 3-4 against these 2 tough teams to begin the season. I think it's nice to be able to say here that the Nats have done this. And again, 3 wins over the last 4 games. Well, nothing was nicer on Wednesday afternoon than Josiah Gray. Off what happened with Patrick Corbin on Tuesday night, off what happened with Josiah in his first start of the season, he goes out there on Wednesday afternoon and he outpitched Max Fried. I mean, I don't think there's any debating that. Fried ended up allowing 3 runs, 2 earned in 5 1/3 innings. Josiah Gray, 5 scoreless innings. He had 5 strikeouts. He allowed just 1 hit, which was a single. Did issue 3 walks and a hit by pitch. He threw 82 pitches, 50 strikes versus 32 balls, but he had the curveball working, especially early in the outing. And he later in the outing did a nice job of navigating his way out of some trouble. Bottom of the 4th inning, he tosses a scoreless inning despite issuing a 10-pitch leadoff walk of Ozzie Albies, and then later in the inning, issuing a 2-out 5-pitch walk of Austin Riley. Then Gray tosses scoreless bottom of the 5th despite issuing a 1-out hit by pitch of Adam Duvall and a 2-out 5-pitch walk of Alex Dickerson. So he was able to get out of the way in terms of giving up stuff in the latter portion of his outing. Looked rather sharp early in the outing. And 5 scoreless innings, that's a nice thing to be able to say here. It's not the standard ultimately, But given, where we are with Nats pitching and, given how Gray did struggle in his initial start of this season, really nice to see Josiah Gray do as he did on Wednesday.
Yeah, for mid-April, I think this is exactly what you're hoping for. Like I said, against a very good lineup. What I liked was that first time through the lineup, very efficient, gets 9 outs on 45 pitches, faces the minimum. And then, he does run into trouble in the 4th and the 5th. He puts 2 runners on each of those innings. The command's starting to falter a little bit, but he got the outs he needed to. He got a big double play out of Matt Olson in the 4th, and then he struck out Manny Pena to end the 5th. And when we've seen Josiah struggle at times in the time that he's been up here, especially late in a start, and we've seen some innings kind of him lose control of those innings, and they spiral downward, and what could be a 1-run inning turns into a 3 or 4-run inning. And so twice here in this start, as it's moving on, as he's facing a lineup a second time, he is able to get the outs and get out of the innings without any damage. I think that's a great learning experience for him. And honestly, and Davey Martinez said the same thing, come June, come July, you're going to see him be allowed to go a little deeper, maybe face a lineup a third time, go through 6 innings. Right now, that's not going to happen in April, but he did a good job for what they needed from him today, and then they turned it over to the bullpen.
Yeah, one of the cool things about watching a young pitcher grow and develop with a team is you get to know that pitcher. And I think one thing that's becoming pretty clear about Josiah Gray is that he is a strikeout pitcher. Like sort of the industry standard now is, can you average a strikeout per inning? And Josiah Gray has done that. Last season, 62 2/3 innings with the Nats. He had 63 strikeouts. And now, so far this season, over 9 innings, he has 10 strikeouts. He, on Wednesday afternoon, had 5 strikeouts in the 5 scoreless innings. If you can do that, if you can be a guy who can average a strikeout per inning, I think there's real value in that because you're not, overly reliant on batted balls being converted into outs. You're a guy who can have swing and miss stuff. You have people on base. You can get batters out as opposed to balls being put into play. So it's been nice to see that with Josiah Gray, and hopefully it's something that keeps going. The other thing that I think is kind of interesting here is that, Josiah Gray was up and down with the Nats last season, but during his up times, he had multiple impressive outings against the Braves. Last August 7th, a 3-2 win at the Braves. Josiah Gray, 2 runs, 1 earned in 5 innings, 10 strikeouts. Then last August 13th, a 4-2 loss to the Braves at Nationals Park, 3 runs in 6 innings, but also 6 strikeouts versus no walks. We mentioned in the last installment of the podcast how the Braves right now seem to be a rather bad matchup for Patrick Corbin. Maybe for whatever reason, the Braves are a good matchup for Josiah Gray.
Yeah, and I think this is a big thing to pay attention to here because, like you said, he had success last year. A lot of these guys have now seen him. They know the book on him. And if he can continue to have success against that lineup, he said it himself, it's a confidence booster to know, okay, my stuff plays well against good hitters and hitters who aren't seeing me for the first time. That bodes very well long-term because he's going to face these guys a lot this year and beyond if everything works out the way the Nationals would hope. And with the strikeouts, the other thing I like is we know his curveball, sometimes his slider, because he throws them both, are sort of out pitches. He got at least a few of the strikeouts today on his fastball, which was at 94 miles an hour. So that's good that he's not falling into patterns where with 2 strikes, the hitter knows it's going to be a breaking ball. Maybe they sit on that. He's able to maybe surprise them some with fastballs for strike 3. It's a maturation. We got to remember he's a young guy. He's still learning. He really didn't have a whole lot of minor league experience before coming up, but I like the progression that we're seeing here. And like I said, against a good lineup that already knows him, to have that success, I think that bodes really well for the future.
Yeah. I mean, what you want right now with a guy like Gray is you want to have legitimate reason for hope. And he's given us that. You're getting enough good going back to last season to where if you believe, you have reason to believe. You don't feel like a fool for believing. And an outing like the one on Wednesday afternoon is further reason to believe, to say, hey, there is something to this guy. We obviously need to see more. Are you a law firm partner looking for a better situation for your practice and a blockbuster contract worthy of Juan Soto? If so, you should call Mason Kalfas of Zenith Legal in Washington, D.C. He works with law firms and lawyers on finding the perfect match. No platoons, just superstars. Some lawyers switch firms because of conflicts. Some lawyers switch firms for a better platform for their practice. And some lawyers switch firms for more money. You need the Scott Boras of legal headhunters working for you, and that's Mason. Mason will work with you to find a better fit for your practice and ultimately the best deal for you and your entire team. Call him today at 202-486-3535 or check out his website, zenithlegal.com. This is an unprecedented time in the legal market, and many top firms are looking to expand. Call Mason today. Zenith Legal also works with associates and distinguishes itself on personal service. Zenith Legal doesn't just spam resumes out to law firms. Zenith Legal talks to the right people and gets your resume in front of the decision makers who matter. Whether you are a Rainmaker partner or a mid-level associate, give Mason Kalfas at Zenith Legal a call today to accelerate your career. Call today, 202-486-3535.
2 outs, last of the 7th. Doolittle to the plate, and a swing and a ground ball into the shift. A roller right to Escobar at short. He's got it. He throws, and it's on target for the out. So Doolittle throws 6 pitches to retire the side in order.
So we mentioned the bullpen. Bullpen was good for the Nats for a third time in 4 games. 4 relievers combined to allow just 1 run in 4 innings. Kyle Finnegan in the bottom of the 6th gave up a 2-out solo homer to Austin Riley. But then after that, boy, you talk about efficiency. Sean Doolittle, a perfect bottom of the 7th on just 6 pitches. Steve Cishek, a perfect bottom of the 8th on just 6 pitches. And then Tanner Rainey, a scoreless bottom of the 9th to improve to 2 for 2 on saves this season. We often reference the times of games. This game, 2 hours, 57 minutes. I believe this is the first Nats game this season to be played in under 3 hours, but the work of Doolittle and Cishek had a lot to do with that. Hard to be more efficient than those two ended up being.
6 outs on 12 pitches. That is fantastic. And that even included, Doolittle took the mound for the bottom of the 8th, warmed up, then the Braves sent their pinch hitter to the plate, and Davey came out and made the pitching change. So there really were 2 warm-ups there, and that still didn't slow down the momentum. That was great. And a nice strategy by Davey to be prepared for that scenario. You had a lefty, Dickerson, who was supposed to lead off the inning, so you put Doolittle on the mound, but you tell Cishek, be ready. If they send up one of their right-handed pinch hitters, we're going straight to you. And he was ready for that. They were fully prepared, and it worked out great. I got to tell you, Sean Doolittle looks like peak 2019, early 2019 Sean Doolittle. That is a great sign if he is doing that. We need to see how he holds up when he's pitching more. But the nice thing is that he's not the only one they trust. They've got 4 guys, it looks like at the moment, maybe more than that, who they can trust. And that's going to make a huge difference in the long run, where you don't have to call on the same couple of guys every time you're in position to win a game. So I loved that. I also loved what Rainey did in the 9th. So, he's facing the heart of their lineup, Olsen, Riley, Ozuna. Game on the line. And he gets charged with a single against him by Riley. That wasn't a single. That was a routine grounder to short. Some little miscommunication on the infield where they're in the shift. I don't know why Escobar didn't just take the ball. Easy play for him moving in the right direction. Instead, he lets it go. Cesar Hernandez behind him would have to make a spectacular backhand play on it. Wasn't able to do it. Well, that could rattle you as a closer, a guy who doesn't have a whole lot of experience. And now you're facing a really good hitter after him, now representing the tying run. And what did Rainey do? Immediately came right back out, got the double play grounder to end the game, didn't even give the Braves a chance to capitalize on that mistake. That's a sign of a good closer, brushing off whatever happened behind him that wasn't his fault and just getting the job done.
Yeah, that Hernandez-Escobar scenario, another one of these defensive miscommunications by the Nats here in this early portion of the season. It was odd, too, because Escobar could have dove for the baseball, and he didn't. He just kind of jogged and let it go. I don't know if Hernandez called him off behind Escobar or what, but it looked kind of odd, but it ended up not coming back to bite the Nats. So, Davey Martinez, I think, is going to be flexible with how he handles the later innings of games in which the Nats hold leads. That said, do you think this setup of Doolittle in the 7th, Cishek in the 8th, Rainey in the 9th, that might be Davey's ideal later innings bullpen plan? Or do you really think that right now it could end up being a number of things for Davey in terms of the bullpen?
I think it could be anything, and I think it really is based on matchups, and I know you'll like to hear that. They want these guys come around the 5th inning, certainly by the 6th inning, to start getting mentally ready and look at where the opposing team is in their lineup and now start mapping it out. Okay, well, you know what? The lefties look like they're going to come up in the 7th. Doolittle, that's probably going to be your inning. But if they're further along, maybe they won't be till the 8th. Okay, Sean, you're going to have that. Maybe Cishek, Finnegan could pitch before that. At least for now, I think they're definitely setting it up that way. Now, I think, it looks like as long as the matchups are right, they like the idea of Rainey as the closer. He's got probably the best pure stuff of all of them. And so if it lines up right, I think you're going to see him most of the time set up to pitch the 9th. But again, if you can tell in advance, you know what, the other team's got lefties coming up in the 9th, I don't think Davey would hesitate to put Doolittle there, especially the way that he's looked here so far. So it's nice to have those options. You got to be flexible. I think all the people here involved don't have egos. They aren't worried about any of that stuff. Cishek said, he's been around the block. He's done everything in his career. He says, hey, if they need me in the 5th one night, I'll do it. If they need me in the 8th or the 9th the next night, I'll do that. It takes buy-in from everyone. But so far, I think you can see how they're trying to put everyone in the most favorable positions to be successful and not necessarily being rigid and saying, here's our 7th inning guy, here's our 8th inning guy, here's our 9th inning guy.
Yeah, and as we discussed, Tyler Clippard could be coming. So a bullpen, which has been a strength lately, could be getting even stronger in the coming days if Clippard ends up joining the team. Hey guys, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. Get your degree in savings during Window Nation's spring break sale. Get 2 free windows for every 2 windows that you buy for as many as you need, and make no down payment and pay no interest for 24 months. That's 2 years. Just call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. As you likely know, natural gas prices continue to rise. Does your energy bill say that you're using more energy than similar homes? This is because you need new windows. Increase the value of your home with Curb Appeal and save money on your energy bills by replacing your old inefficient windows with new energy efficient Window Nation windows. Buy 2 windows, get 2 windows free, pay nothing for 2 years. No money down, no payments, and no interest for 2 full years. Save thousands of dollars. These are savings that you'll only see once this year. Take advantage of Window Nation's special offer. Window Nation has installed over 1 million windows and has an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. And make sure that you tell Window Nation that Al Galdi sent you.
First pitch. Swinging a high fly ball right field. This is fairly deep. Rosario backpedaling just shy of the track. He will make the catch. Bell tagging at third. He'll come in to score as the throw is into second base. So a good at-bat for Lane Thomas. First pitch sac fly to right. And the Nationals tack on the insurance run, leading 3-0.
And then with the Nats offense in this game, so look, the results with the offense weren't great, but they obviously were good enough to win. Nats totaled just 3 runs, 7 hits, no walks. The 7 hits were a double and 6 singles, but a few positives stood out. Maikel Franco has all of a sudden erupted here. What a series he ended up having in this Nats victorious series at the Braves. So Franco on Wednesday afternoon was up to being the Nats' number 5 batter, 2 for 4 with an RBI single and another single. He and the Nats 2-run first had a 2-out first pitch, RBI single to center field. He and the Nats 1-run 6 had a 1-out opposite field single to right field. Maikel Franco in this series, off having a rough season opening series against the Mets, 8 for 13 with a home run, 2 doubles, 5 singles, and 7 RBI. And then Josh Bell on Wednesday afternoon, another good game for him. 2 for 4 with a double, a single, and an RBI ground out. You know, Josh Bell has a 7-game hitting streak to begin this season. He's the only Nationals player with a hit in every Nats game so far this season. And Bell now on the season, 9 for 26, 2 homers, and 3 walks. So the oh-so-slow start for Josh Bell last season, a distant memory at this point with what he did the rest of last season and what he's doing so far this season. So, you know, you're 3-4, and we still haven't seen the best, say, of a Nelson Cruz. I don't think we've seen the best of even like a Juan Soto, but you got guys like Franco and Bell doing quite well so far this season.
Yeah, and so let's remember Josh Bell a year ago. He looked great in spring training. He hit a home run at Port St. Lucie, I think, that cleared the scoreboard left center field. And remember, it was the whole Bell and Zimmerman were on fire, and it's like, hey, look at this first base combo they're going to have. And then on the flight home, he gets COVID. and he has to miss the first week of the season. And then it took him 6 weeks to find a swing again. It wasn't until mid-May that he started to get it. So to see him start like this is both encouraging and not necessarily all that surprising. I know we focused on the bad start to last year, but that may have been some extenuating circumstances, certainly out of his control. We do know historically he's a streaky hitter, so he's probably going to go through a slump at some point. But I think also at this point, we know he's got a body of work over several years now, where you have a pretty good idea what kind of a hitter he is. And he is, in his second year here, he feels, I think, confident and comfortable. You're seeing him be a vocal player in the clubhouse. You're seeing him play much better than advertised defense at first base. He wants to play every day. I certainly don't think he feels like he's, standing in Zimmerman's shadow anymore, anything like that. He's in a really good place right now, and it does raise the question as we move further along in this season of, does he want to stay here long term, and do the Nats want to try to keep him long term?
Yeah, it's an interesting contractual situation because he doesn't figure to cost a ton of money, but he's also not the kind of player these days who you're trying to necessarily build around. But, if it's not going to cost you a ton, then I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to try to sign Josh Bell to a multi-year extension. But he definitely is locked in to begin this season, so it's been nice seeing that. I want to get your take on Cesar Hernandez. So, he has not been great as a leadoff batter. He only has one walk, but he has started to pick up some hits. He very interestingly in this series began every game with a single, which is what a leadoff man is supposed to do. He had two more singles on Wednesday afternoon. In the Nats' two-run first, he had a leadoff single up the middle of Brave starter Max Fried on an 0-2 pitch. He, in the top of the fifth, had a two-out full count single through the left side of the infield. I mean, eventually you do want to see him get some extra base hits, and you do want to see him draw some walks, but I think it's been interesting to see him get these hits here lately, begin each of the three games at the Braves with a hit. What's jumping out to you when it comes to Cesar Hernandez, the batter so far?
I think he's doing what he needs to do. Is it a complete picture yet? No. Is it really everything you do want to see from a leadoff hitter? No, because like you said, ultimately you want some walks, and he's not doing that. But for the most part, he's putting the bat on the ball. Like you said, first inning, that's a great thing to do. And being aggressive. It was at least one of these games, might have been back-to-back days. Yeah, first pitch on Monday and Tuesday that he singled. It was a couple pitches in on Wednesday. And you don't necessarily normally think of that as a leadoff hitter's mindset. Oh, you got to work the count, let everybody else see what he's got. But they very much across the board in this series, there was a message sent to the hitters to say, be aggressive early. The best pitch you might see in an at-bat is a fastball that's either the first pitch or the second pitch of an at-bat. You don't have to work the count. If you see something good, swing at it. If it's not good, take it and work your way through the whole at-bat. And you saw an aggressive approach, particularly against Max Fried, and Cesar was at the top of that list of doing that. So I think he's doing fine. I don't know that I'm going to say here 7 games in, clearly he makes the most sense. He's going to be their best choice as a leadoff hitter. But for now, he's doing enough to make it worthwhile sticking with it. And honestly, the other guys, Lane Thomas, hasn't been great so far. So it's not like there's an obvious alternative at the moment. So stick with it until something better comes along.
Well, two guys who do continue to struggle for the Nats are Victor Robles and Alcides Escobar. Victor was the Nats starting center fielder and number 9 batter on Wednesday afternoon, but another 0 for 3. So Victor Robles on the season is 0 for 15 with no walks and an RBI hit by pitch. So he at least does have that. And then Alcides Escobar. Boy, this is surprising. I mean, I guess maybe our expectations for Alcides were elevated off his stunning production last season. But geez, he's not doing much of anything right now. Wednesday afternoon, he was a Nats number 7 batter, starting shortstop, 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. He now this season is a mere 1 for 19 with a single, no walks, and 9 strikeouts. He has struck out 9 times so far this season. I guess with Robles, we're at a point at which nobody is stunned that he's 0 for to begin the season. I think with Escobar, as odd as it may sound, it is surprising. And we all just kind of assumed, well, yeah, I guess Alcides Escobar is a Nats starting shortstop this season. With a guy like Lucius Fox on board and maybe some other options, I don't think the Nats certainly should be committed to Alcides Escobar. Do you think that he could be playing his way out of being the Nats' everyday shortstop?
It could happen here at some point. I don't think we're there yet. And Lucius, as great as that game was against the Mets, he got a chance to start on Tuesday and didn't look so great, both at the plate and in the field. So I don't know that they're there quite yet. But whenever A-Ray Adrianza comes back, that is going to be something to look at. And certainly Luis Garcia, as he gets more work at AAA, some point they may want to consider bringing him back, although I know he's struggled in the field so far, so that's not a great sign for him. The concerning thing to me about Escobar is what you just said, the strikeouts, 9 of them already. That's not who he is. I mean, his greatest tool last year was the ability to put the bat on the ball, to hit those garbage pitches off the plate and still poke them down the right field line for hits, things like that. And he is not doing that at all. I don't know the reason for this. I don't know what exactly is going on. He also, like we said earlier, had that kind of shaky thing in the 9th inning in the field where he didn't go after that ball that seemed to be headed right for him. So very disappointing start for him. At the moment, I don't necessarily see a regular alternative. Maybe when Adrianza comes back, maybe as Garcia gets a little more under his belt. But it does remind you that, this was the first move they made in the offseason. They re-signed Alcides like right after the season ended. And the thought of the time was, well, that doesn't necessarily mean he's the starting shortstop. For $1 million, he could be the utility guy, help out, guide some of the younger players. And then all of a sudden we realized, no, he actually is the starting shortstop, everyday shortstop, without a real firm backup plan there. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out. For now, it's certainly his job, but I don't think that anybody should just assume that's his for the whole season. He is going to have to earn that playing time at some point here.
Yeah, and especially when you look at the bigger picture, right? I mean, this is his age 35 season. You're not trying to develop or groom Alcides Escobar. He's here to tread water for you while you wait on a Luis Garcia or someone else to emerge. So, to keep at it with Escobar, like, what's the point? I mean, I think it's always important to remember who he was when the Nats got him last year. He had not played in a major league game since 2018. He that season had a negative WAR of 2.2 for the Royals in that 2018 season. He ended up being, like we said, stunningly productive for the Nats last season. But, you see this in sports sometimes when a guy who has no business doing well does well. And then the next go around, the guy sort of like wakes up from the dream and the carriage has turned back into a pumpkin and you're like, oh, that's why he was available. And this is why he was where he was in his career. So, you got a whole lot more out of Alcides Escobar last season than you had any reason to anticipate. Sometimes you just got to get out while the getting's still good. And instead to go back to him for this season, it's hindsight now at this point. And maybe he turns it around. I mean, we're 7 games into the season, but I don't think anybody should be stunned if this just ends up being a bad season for Alcides Escobar.
No, and you do see this, we've seen it over the years with other guys too. You have someone whose career is kind of on the brink and they get a shot and they make the most of it and they look pretty good out there. And then they say, well, hey, let's bring him back for another season. And it's not being done intentionally, certainly, but you wonder subconsciously, there's something to be said for playing for your life, playing for your career. Like if it didn't work out for Alcides when he got that chance last year, that might have been the last chance he ever got with a big league club. It worked out. They immediately signed him to another contract. And it's only natural to feel a little bit of, you lose that edge. You don't necessarily feel like you have to prove yourself again. You're maybe not playing for your life anymore. I've seen it with other guys, like we said, and so I'm not terribly surprised. You hope he can get it back together here and be a productive player for them, even if he's not the long-term answer. For now, he is their starting shortstop. He did a nice job for them last year. You'd like for him to have some success. He wouldn't be the first guy to fall into that trap that we've seen before, nor the first player that a team falls into that trap of bringing them back after one nice bounce-back season, thinking maybe that this is who they're always going to be, when in fact, that was the outlier season.
Yeah, I mean, I really would like to see Luis Garcia back at the major league level and playing for the Nats. Now, he's got to earn it, okay? But once he earns it, the Alcides Escobar thing is basically a road to nowhere. So I'd like to see Luis back up sooner rather than later, assuming that his play warrants that. I mean, I don't think they should just gift him, the everyday starting shortstop job or anything like that. You can always email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Email from Ryan from Arlington of the Patrick Corbin struggles on Tuesday night. Writes Ryan, in light of Corbin giving his usual responses after a bad outing, has Jim Hickey provided any more insight into what he's working on with Corbin? Thanks as always, and go Nats. Yeah, so I know you talk to Davey often. I know Mike Rizzo speaks every so often. Does Jim Hickey ever speak to you guys or not really?
He's kind of available if you can track him down. He's a busy man. Pitching coaches and hitting coaches very often are hard to track down because they're always working with somebody at any point in time. So it can be a little bit tricky. The thing with Corbin, I think we've brought this up before, is there a big fix to be done there? Or is it a do what you did in the past that worked? You just need to perfect that and get back to that. And it feels like they're more focused on that than trying to reinvent him. They were modestly hopeful coming out of spring training and feeling like they were starting to see better stuff from him based on a few starts at the end of last season as well, where he did have success the last 3 or 4 starts. And they felt like what he was doing in spring training was better, keeping the ball down the zone, commanding the fastball, and then playing the slider off it. Obviously, the other night was nothing like that and looked very much reminiscent of what we saw last year and the year before. And, you know, it does make you wonder, does he have the ability to adjust or not? And listening to Patrick talk about it, he seems at a loss. It feels like they are just saying, we know the pitcher you are. We know the pitcher you've been in the past to be successful. We need to find that again. Not, hey, let's try something different. Let's turn you into a different pitcher than you've been because you need to. Now, eventually, if this clearly isn't working, I don't know how you don't try to do that. The issue is, does Patrick Corbin have that in him? Does he have another path to success? Or was this really the only way all along he could be successful? That's very concerning if that's true.
I think what's tough, too, is you look at this series win for the Nats at the Braves. Josh Rogers in Game 1, 1 run in 5 1/3 innings. Josiah Gray in Game 3, 5 scoreless innings. It's only Patrick Corbin in Game 2 who struggled, and he didn't just struggle. He got wrecked. 6 runs in 2 2/3 innings. I think everyone respects the Braves lineup, but this is a Braves lineup against which the likes of Josh Rogers and Josiah Gray did well. So if they can do well, why can't Patrick Corbin do well? And again, it's not just that he didn't do well, it's that he got rocked to the extent that he got rocked. I think that's what's aggravating if you're a Nats fan. You're like, how come he can't do as Josh Rogers did in Game 1 of the series?
Yeah, and like we said the other night, we're not there yet, but there may come a time not too far off where you look at this and say they clearly have 5 better options for their rotation than Patrick Corbin. And then it's a matter of, is he in the rotation because he deserves to be, or he's in the rotation because of his contract? And that's never a position any team wants to find itself in.
No, and that's really, honestly, the worst reason to keep someone around or in a position of prominence, the contract. The contract's a sunk cost, okay? You're paying that whether he's great or awful. So you got to do what's best for the team, not what, makes you feel best in terms of an investment. So we shall see with Patrick Corbin. You tell us what you think. You can tweet us at Nats_chat. You can email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Last season we had some fun with some evergreen questions that we threw out there. So we have another one that we want to throw out there to you. Your memories of your first baseball game that you attended. So your first game, presumably major league game, that you attended, presumably as a kid, although maybe not. But let us know. Those stories can be a lot of fun to get into and share. So you can send us those stories, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, you can also send us stories via voice memo. So you can speak into your phone, record what you say, and then email that file to us. Again, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to sponsor the podcast, you can email Tim Shovers at that address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Our new Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt is out. It is red. It is fantastic. You can get yours by going to natschatpodcast.square.site. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Cesar Hernandez comes up with the play after the confusion on the previous ground ball. He gets the double play, 4-3, and the Nationals out of the dugout to celebrate a victory and a series win in Atlanta. The final score, the Washington Nationals 3, the Atlanta Braves 1.